one. Okay, well, last minute decision today to come out here at low tide. I'm fishing what we all call the creek, and it's not actually a creek per se. What it is a cut that snakes through these grass flats here. And right now the tide is going out. We're getting ready to be down at its lowest tide. I know the tide's still going out because as I'm going paddling up the creek, I'm actually battling the current. I can feel the water pushing and trying to push me back out. So I know that all that grass flats is still emptying out. As soon as the, oh, check that out, a horseshoe crab. As soon as the tide turns, it'll start filling back in, and that's hopefully when all the predators will come in with it. And I'm gonna go get myself set up at one of my little holes that I love fishing that my man Poon showed me on my first trip out here. He brought me out here. We were fishing live bait. I didn't bring any live bait with me. I know I should. And the reason being is I'm only gonna be out here for a few hours, and I'm probably not gonna get a chance to fish tomorrow, and I would have trouble keeping the bait alive over the course of the 2 days. So I figured today just fish some gulp bait and some plastics or whatever, artificials, and I've had really good success just doing that. So not, I mean, I'm always concerned, you never know if you're gonna catch fish, but at least I have confidence in what I'm throwing. So anyway, this little skinny part here, so the tide gets, current gets really strong. Got to dig to get through here. It's can be slow going in some of these shallow spots. But anyway, so yeah, oh, I got beached. So anyway, yeah, so I just got a couple more bends to make, and I'll be at my spot, and we will I'll kind of give you a rundown on what we're doing today. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to my channel. All right, we're set up at my little hole that I like fishing. There's a bend right here. There's a deep hole in here. Current should start coming in through here, start filling this up. At highest tide, the water is going to be above that mud. So there's something chasing mullet up there. So I'm starting off with my little curly tail that I like throwing. This catches pretty much all inshore species: redfish, the flounder, and trout. I don't think I'll get many trout in here, but I've caught flounder and lots of redfish out of here. So, oh, there's something flashing right there. So hopefully, you know, we'll get something to bite. All right, we got a fish on. I don't think it's very big, whatever it is. Yeah, it's a nice little red. Oh no, it's a nice trout. Very nice trout. And I was just saying I didn't think I'd catch any. There's a little gator right there. That's a good sized trout. All right, got to be very gentle with them. Beautiful fish. All right, well, let's get the fish grips on them. My biggest trout to date is 18 inches, so we'll see if this beats that. There's a chance that it might. Certainly close. Oh, not even close. This one is 15 inches. Seemed a lot larger than that. They always do. All right, I'm gonna get a few pictures of it so you can get see that iridescent color in that light. Real pretty fish. Get some photos of it and get it back out in the water. Well, I have to say that was an unexpected and a very good catch to the day. That was about my 5th or 6th cast, so that's promising. And I was shocked that it was only 15 inches. It really looked like it was bigger, but I don't know if it's because I get excited or what it is, but I always overestimate the size of fish. That's why I have my little ruler on here. So anyway, let's keep plugging away because there's a hit. That's a good fish. Oh, that's a good fish. It's turning the whole boat. It's coming right towards me. Here it comes. I think it's wrapped in the line. Yeah, it got wrapped up. Another nice trout. This one's definitely bigger. That's a bigger trout. Oh, he just got off too. Oh, thank goodness. Look at that. All right. Very, very nice fish. All right. So trout are very delicate. They have a slime layer on them, and every fish has a slime layer on it, but trout are one of those that are very dependent on it. So I'm trying not to touch this guy as much as I can to not disturb that. And if I do touch him, I don't want to touch him with dry hands. Okay. So that's why I'm being, okay, hold on. Extra slow and cautious with this guy because I just want to get the grips on him. He won't open his mouth. Come on, buddy. Come on, help me out. Help me help you. There we go. Whew. That's a nice fat trout. Let's go ahead and measure this guy. Not quite as big. 17 inches. Right at 17 inches. So again, get some pictures of him, get him back in the water. That's a fat fish. Okay, we just let that trout go. Let's see, they do run in packs. So if there's one, there's bound to be more. I did see a couple of small redfish cruising around just before I caught that first trout, but they were small. And what I'm thinking is the tide still hasn't come in, so those are kind of like the resident fish. They're so small they need to stay in these deep holes for protection. They go out into the, there's a hit, they go out into the open water and they're gonna get eaten. Well, sure, I'm glad I did this. Another trout. Oh, all right. All right. Go. It's a smaller one. I ain't gonna bother measuring this one. All right. Well, anyway, this is a smaller one. This was probably more like 13 inches, 14 inches. So this one, I'll go ahead and get off the hook and back in the water really quickly. Another fish on. Fishing the same pattern. White curly tail in that same spot. Probably another trout. No, it's a red. Saw the blue tail. A little redfish. Oh, very nice. All right. So the third one's gonna be the toughest one back here is the flounder. And when I say the third, I mean of the triples, of the slam. The inshore slam would be speckled trout, red drum or redfish, and flounder. And oh, look at the spots on that guy. How pretty is that? 1, 2, 3, a 4 spotter. Wow, look at that blue tail. How beautiful. What a gorgeous, gorgeous fish. Such simple colors, but just so bright. All right, well, he's tiny, so I'm gonna bother measuring him either. But man, these things are feisty. All right, well, we'll go ahead and have to put the fish grips on them and do the whole shebang. All right. Okay, fish on. That'd be awesome if this was a flounder. So I switched up, and I was just kind of bouncing this off the bottom. It's a paddle tail gulp, and it doesn't swim very well. Oh, it's a nice red. I'll show you the lure I'm using in just a second. Good size red. Oh, there he goes. He woke up. He just realized he was hooked. Oh, what a beautiful blue tail on this one. Okay, so I switched up my jig heads. I went a little bit lighter. This is a 1/8 ounce jig head with this little curly paddle tail swim bait. But you can see it's deformed. It swims kind of funny. So what I'm doing is just letting it bounce, settle to the bottom, and bouncing it back up. And being such a lightweight for saltwater, 1/8 of an ounce is very lightweight. It comes down very, very slowly. So it's a presentation that's very, very subtle, very finesse type fishing for saltwater, but it's effective. And the nice thing about the way I'm fishing it is I'll probably catch redfish, and there's a good chance that I'll catch a flounder because I am fishing right on the bottom. And the hops I'm doing, and all of them are just short little hops, just kind of getting it off the bottom. It looks like an injured bait fish is just kind of struggling to get along, and makes for an easy meal. And that last redfish I caught, it picked it up. It was a very, very subtle. It wasn't an aggressive strike. Very, very subtle. Just kind of slurped it up and kind of swam along. Really didn't seem to know that it was hooked for quite a while there, because it really was a lazy, for a redfish, it was very lazy. Okay, so haven't gotten a bite in about a half hour, 40 minutes, and the tide right now is actually slack. It's not coming in, it's not going out. So I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity, go a little further upstream, fish another one of the holes a little bit further up the creek, and as I see the tide turn, I'll go ahead and come back to this hole. Hopefully no one has come in and poached it. But yeah, it got slow there for a little while. I'm sure it's because of the slack tide. Without any current, the fish become very inactive, but it's only for a short period of time, and then the tide's going to start rolling in, and that's when the action should start picking up. But in the meantime, that hole's done. Let's see if we can find ourselves another hole that might hold a few fish, keep us entertained in the meantime. All right, let's see how it goes. This is another hole. I've fished this hole numerous times. I've never caught anything, but it's just one of those holes that just looks fishy. You would expect to catch something out of here at some point. So what there is you have almost like an island right there. So you have two little sets of current. You got the main one, the main channel, then another one behind it, and there's like little pockets and lakes that form back there. More like ponds, really. They're very small. They fill up at high tide. But this would be a good staging area for any fish waiting to get in there. It's a nice little deep hole. It's probably about 5 or 6 feet deep. At its deepest, it's just there's a nice little cut right there, right along that bank. And I've fished this numerous times. Almost every time I come up here, I end up fishing here because it should hold fish. It should at least hold fish that are staging. And it's probably, you know, a wasted effort, because since I know I never caught a fish here, why do I keep fishing it? But it just looks too fishy not to try. And right now we're just basically killing time until the tide turns. Anyway, so I figured let's go ahead and give this a shot. And it's literally right around the bend where we just came from. Okay, so we're set back up at that original hole. Starting to fill back up. The current's coming in. So now's the best opportunity to catch something. Just to give you an idea how quickly things can change, that little area right there when we first got here was all dry. It was just kind of damp from when the previous tide had receded. But you can see the water starting to fill in over here. And over here, I don't know if you guys can make that out, but there's water actually spilling through the grass. And what it is out there is the main body of water. The water level up there has already gotten higher. As it fills in from the intercoastal, that water fills up. But it takes a while for it to all funnel in through here, since it's got to come in through these snake in through these little waterways that I kind of work my way up, and little things like that. So you end up getting water that's maybe 6 inches higher there and dumps into here from every little place it can get. So that's actually a good thing right there, because you got current coming in from there, current over there, and eventually current coming over here. So you have a lot of different breaks in current, a lot of different cuts that current creates throughout the mud. And those are areas where fish will congregate, like bait fish. I could already see a bunch of mullet in here already starting to fill in the area. So as the mullet come in, the other fish come in following to eat. And there's also crabs and clams and other snails and other things that redfish feed off of. But the bite should start picking up here shortly. I'm hopeful that it does. And the fish will get more active. Now whether they're going to bite on what I'm throwing, that's a whole nother thing. But in the meantime, the fish will definitely get more active. And I brought a different pole. I'm going to set that one up behind me with just a gulp crab on there and just let it soak behind me down there. So if any fish does get past me, maybe they'll come across it and I'll decide I want to take a little sniff at it. Okay, so on this rod, I'm going to put this, it's called a peeler crab. It's basically a imitation fiddler crab. And just have a couple split shot up here and a little swivel and this thick monofilament leader here. I'm just going to toss it back there and just let it soak. See if a passing redfish picks it up. Oh, not that far. There we go. So that's just going to soak behind me. Give it some slack. Let it sit out there. And I loosened the drag, so if any fish pulls on it, I'll hear that drag go off. And in the meantime, I've positioned my boat in a way that I have the anchor up front. I'm using the current that's coming through here. As you can see, that's already filled in and spilling through, and the current is coming this way to keep my boat facing in that direction. It's one of the things you learn when you start positioning anchors, is that boat position is really, really important. So this makes it really easy. I'm casting right out in front of me. It keeps the boat facing in that one direction, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable to fish. There's that dead horseshoe crab that we saw on the beach. Alright, well, the fishing gods gifted me with a mullet that kind of floated by, fresh dead mullet. So I cut it and put it on that pole that was soaking behind me that had the crab on it, the imitation crab. And I've got a couple of bites on it already. Not sure if it's crabs picking at it, kind of moving with it, or if it actually is a fish. Oh, it's a fish. It's a fish. There he is. Yes. It's good. I don't know if you guys can see that sun, but it was getting low. Haven't had a bite in a while. Yeah, buddy. Come on. Oh, it is a humongous catfish. That is a big catfish. Normally use big chunks of bait so you don't catch these guys. But this guy didn't get the memo. That's one of my bigger catfish. Yeah. Gotta be careful with these guys. They got spines and they're way more aggressive than their freshwater cousins. So I'm gonna focus on getting him off and then getting this back in the water, see if I can catch me a nice redfish. All right, well, the sun is getting pretty low back there. Gonna head on back. I already worked my way halfway back through the creek here. A little bit disappointed that the bite didn't pick up more as the tide came in, but that's fishing. You don't always get what you expect. We didn't get skunked. Those trout were a surprise. I really wasn't expecting to catch trout, especially at a low tide that far back into the creek. But you know, it just goes to show how little I do know about saltwater fishing. I'm still really learning a lot about how the fish behave, where to find them. The most important thing I've learned is the tides. It's one thing that's key to everything, especially here in the intercoastal, where these creeks and these grass flats get flooded at the high tide. It's definitely important to know when the tide's coming in, when it's going out. So that's something that I'm still working on. But anyway, it was still a good time. Had a lot of fun. It was really relaxed to be able to come back here into this creek, completely isolate myself from everyone. Once you're back in there's really no signs of people other than maybe a passing plane. But Definitely had fun. Hope you guys enjoyed today's adventure. We will see you on our next fishing adventure. Just want to take the moment to admire this sunset for just a little bit. Oh, what a gorgeous day. What a gorgeous day. This is a nice hole right here. I have to remember this, come back here. Fish this with some cut bait one of these days. All right, almost back to the boat ramp, just right over there. Maybe another quarter mile to go. Just got to get right over these last oyster beds and we're home free.